What's going on, everybody? My name's Crypto Corey. I want to thank you for joining me. And today we've got another Veve discussion video, but this one's going to be centered around comic books. And not just any type of comic book, but the digital comics versus the physical comics. Real quick, we're going to make just a real quick little side thing. That way we can kind of move forward with our discussion to talk about what's better, a physical comic book or a digital comic book. But one thing that we're going to get out of the way real quick is digital comics that are via subscription service. So if you have a subscription service to a comic book line or something like that are all digital, that will not be in this discussion video. The reason for that is you don't actually own it. So with a physical comic, you own that physical comic. With a digital NFT comic book, you own that comic. But with a subscription service, you don't actually own it. It's only for the readers, and that's fine. We're not hating on readers, but this is solely physicals versus digitals in an ownership fashion. So we're going to go through just 3 points, just 3 simple points that I'd like to make. One is the why is a digital comic book better than a physical comic book. For the first one, it's going to be that it doesn't wear and tear. Very simply, it's digital. It's not physical. It's not in your hand. It doesn't wear and tear. So let's say you get this really awesome comic and you really like it, and it becomes scarce, physical comic, and you now want to hold on to that comic because you think it's going to be more valuable later on. So yeah, we are talking about value, not just reading it. We'll get to the reading aspect in a minute. But, for collectors who want to collect something and keep it nice, whether they're going to sell it or not, a physical comic is harder to keep nice. You have to put it in a box and bag, or bag and board it. You've got to get it graded and put into a slab. Those are the things that are going to keep your comic book nice. But if you have it slabbed, you can't read it anymore. Even though it's solid and it's more valuable in a slab, you physically can no longer read it. It just becomes kind of like a collectible art piece. Where with a digital comic, digital NFT comic, you can read it over and over and over and over. You're never going to crease the pages. You're never going to mess it up. You're never going to hurt its grading. It's so when we're talking about it from that standpoint, the digital comic will always be better than the physical one, because you can't mess up a digital comic. You can mess up a physical one. Second one, this is what a lot of physical comic book readers talk about and physical comic book collectors talk about. They talk about, why would I get a digital version when it's just a JPEG? It's not worth anything, it just is a JPEG. Well, technically, you just got a sheet of paper with ink on it. So that argument doesn't make any sense. Then they'll also talk about the reading aspect. So this is still in the second category of the physical versus the digital. Physical collectors will say that you only want to gain money. You're not buying an NFT comic book to read it and enjoy the stories. Well, to that, this is what I'll say. So Obi-Wan came up with their brand new comic, and they released it both in a physical version and a digital version. A few comic books have done that as their first drop. Now, this is the first ever NFTs to ever come out, and you go to a physical comic book store, there are hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of different types of comic books, and inside of some of those, there's like 5 or 6 side stories. Knights of the High Republic, Star Wars High Republic comic books. You can go right now and you can get High Republic. There is a variant that comes out, not variant, but there's a different storyline that comes out that is part of the High Republic that's for a younger audience. So just on that one alone, you've got more than one reader. So we're in the early days of digital comics, and until the adoption happens, I don't think you're going to see week after week. Let's say like you got this new comic that comes out once a month. You won't see that this comic every month is dropping a new NFT variant version of it. You won't see that for a while, because that's going to take mass adoption. But that is where the digital versions are heading. The physical copies, they take up a lot of space, they get ruined, You got to house them, you got to store them. They're not readily available to you. But a digital owned copy, you can do all the stuff you can do with the physical. You can still sell it, you can collect it, you can display it, you can show it off, but you've got it with you everywhere you go, and you can read it all you want also. So in the future, and for those of you talking about the subscription service versus physical, yeah, technically you can own the physical copy, have the subscription service, and then read it all you want. But that's you literally having to purchase 2 comic books. Like essentially, you have to purchase the subscription, and you have to purchase the comic. So the digital version just combines them into one. So that's, if you really want to talk about reading a comic, collecting a comic versus you're only in it for the money, not for the reading, that's going to change. Also, I'd like to point out that some of these comic books, you have to excuse me when it bounces up and down, I'm driving in my truck, but some of these comic books that are highly valuable, no one's buying them. No one. No individual collectors like, you know what, I think I want a 9.6 AF-15. You know, they're not going to go out and buy it. They don't have the money. The people who buy the really rare, sought-after, expensive ones are people on top of their game, top of the collecting circuit of comics, or they're companies, their businesses, their investment firms. These are the type of people buying $3 million, $5 million comics. It's not the everyday consumer buying these highly valued comics. So for you to sit there and try to point out that a digital NFT collector is just in it for the money, well, my friend, you know, everyone else is also into the physical comic books for the same reasons. And the reading aspect will only grow as adoption happens. Finally, the last point. So when we're talking the digital comics versus physical comics, I hate to say it, let's say you are an investor. Let's say you are a collector that wants to make a profit. And you are thinking, what's going to be better, the physical version or the digital version? Because the physical versions are typically more valuable than the digital version, just because they're the originals, they're the OGs, you know, they're older, you know, they're slabbed and graded, therefore they've got variation on value. But when you look at a digital comic book, it is valuable or not automatically. If you collect physical comic books, you're going to run out of space. You are going to have liabilities. Let's say you own like, $20,000, $30,000 slabbed comic book. You might want to get that thing insured. What happens if you have a house fire? What happens if someone comes in your house and steals all your stuff? See, like, you can change your login and your password information and stuff like that, and you can contact Veve to get things recovered. But you cannot just go recover your just destroyed in a fire, water damage comic books. You know, if someone steals them, maybe you can get them back. But the physical versions are here forever, and there will never be more or less of them unless we start burning, which that will happen. That's voluntary. But in the physical world, there's all kinds of things that can happen to your physical collection that will devalue them and can make them intrinsically useless to you, like fire. You can't read your comics, enjoy the art on your comics if they're destroyed in a fire. So, my opinion, from a physical collector and from a digital collector of comic books. Now, I'm more into the Star Wars comics. I'm more into the niche type stuff. I have the Alien series that just came out with Marvel. I'm not really into Iron Man, Avengers, Spider-Man. Those aren't really my readers. I don't read those comics. But I do collect the art physically. I physically collect the art from those brands. Now, because of Veve, I've collected more Marvel focused, like Avengers, X-Men, things like. I've collected more of those than I've ever collected my entire life over the physical variants. And I've got to say, it makes you want to go out and buy the physical version just for a collector purpose. I'm still in the search for a really good graded newsstand version of Amazing Spider-Man number 361, the first appearance of Carnage. So I've been looking for the physical copy, and I'm having a real rough time because every time I go to some place and someone's got a decent price on theirs, then I find out that it's a second printing, or that's not the newsstand copy, it's the first printing, but it's way overpriced for a first printing compared to a newsstand, and so it makes the physical collecting world. I go to stores all the time, I get on eBay all the time, I go all over the place looking for what I want, and I'm always disappointed. Not always, most of the time I'm disappointed. That does not happen with Veve. I'm never disappointed because it's always at my fingertips, always ready. All the comics are in perfect condition, never needing to scour through them. I don't have to go and compare the pricing on the newsstand versus the first edition. You've got all that information in front of you at all times, where you don't have that in the physical collecting world. I guess if I would say a fourth one, the ease of selling and collecting your money. I sell things on eBay, including comic books and Funko Pops and stuff, and we'll just consider this the fourth. I'm really upset whenever I had a pen, a Disney pen, that was $50, and I shipped it out, and it just went missing, just went away completely. Now, I did not get insurance on it, so I lost all that money. I lost that $57, and that purchaser, they got their refund. Now you could say I could have gotten the insurance, but the insurance would have been so much, it almost renders it useless. But you're taking a risk when you're shipping and buying and purchasing and selling physical comic books. Things just happen. Things get destroyed in shipping. Sometimes people just back out of the physical deal if you're doing it in person. Sometimes the shipping companies just lose the item. So when you look at the digital version, you've got a marketplace ready for you to purchase it. It's right there. You know what you're getting. With Veve at least, you're not getting swindled. You're not having to worry about someone hacking into your stuff, stealing it, because it's in a closed system for now, at least. But you just don't have to worry about the amount of time it takes for you to ship that comic. Now, as far as the sales price, we're talking value. Yeah, the physical copies will always, in my opinion, my personal opinion, the physical versions of these comic books will always be more valuable than their digital counterparts. And the reason is they're older, they're physical, more nostalgia, more collectability out of them in terms of the history of it. NFTs are brand new, so we don't really know where that's going. But I would just assume that forever, my assumption, that the physical version will always be more valuable than the digital. But again, storing them takes up space, selling them takes time, you can get swindled, you can have damages. Digitals, you don't have that. So that's it. Me personally, I collect both physical and digital comic books. I personally believe that digital comic books are better than physical comic books. Like right now, I can pull out my digital comic book and I can start reading it, and my physicals, I can't. I gotta go home, or I gotta take it with me. And when I take it with me, it runs the risk of getting messed up. But I want to thank you for joining me. Again, nothing I say is financial advice. My name's Crypto Corey, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good day, Veve fam.